First contact. The vast emptiness of space had always called to Commander Sarah Chen. As she stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, Earth's most advanced exploration vessel, she felt a familiar thrill of anticipation. Today marked a milestone in human history. They were about to venture beyond the solar system for the first time. "All systems are go, Commander," reported Lieutenant Raj Patel from his station. "Warp drive is online and stable." Sarah nodded, her dark eyes gleaming with excitement. "Excellent. Helm, set course for Alpha Centauri. Let's make history." As the Horizon prepared to jump, none of the crew could have imagined the chain of events they were about to set in motion. They were explorers, scientists, and dreamers. They were about to become humanity's first line of defense. The ship emerged from warp in a flash of blue light, the star system of Alpha Centauri sprawling before them. But something was wrong. Alarms blared across the bridge as the sensors picked up multiple unknown objects approaching rapidly. "Commander, we've got company," shouted the tactical officer, Lieutenant Emma Reeves. "Multiple vessels on an intercept course. They're not responding to hails." Sarah's mind raced. First contact scenarios had been drilled into them, but nothing could have prepared them for this. "Shields up. Prepare for evasive maneuvers." The alien ship struck without warning. Energy beams lanced out, battering the Horizon's shields. The ship rocked violently, throwing crew members to the floor. "Return fire," Sarah ordered, gripping her chair as another blast shook the ship. "We need to buy time to escape." The Horizon's weapons flared to life, but they seemed to have little effect on the alien vessels. Sarah realized with growing dread that they were hopelessly outmatched. "Warp drive offline," Raj called out. "We're sitting ducks, Commander." Sarah gritted her teeth. All power to shields and life support. Prepare for boarding actions. The next few minutes were chaos. Alien troops teleported aboard, their insectoid forms towering over the human crew. Sarah and her team fought desperately, but one by one, they were overwhelmed. As consciousness faded, Sarah's last thought was of Earth. They had to warn them. They had to prepare. She awoke in a cold, dark cell. The stench of alien pheromones filled the air, making her gag. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, she saw the rest of her crew scattered around the chamber, some still unconscious, others stirring groggily. A harsh, clicking voice echoed through the cell. "Humans, you have trespassed in Zinthar space. Your species will be judged, and if found wanting, eradicated." Sarah struggled to her feet, facing the insectoid alien on the other side of the energy barrier. "We came in peace," she said, her voice hoarse but defiant. "We didn't know this system was claimed." The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Ignorance is no excuse. Your primitive species is a plague upon the galaxy. We will cleanse it." As the alien turned to leave, Sarah called out, "You're making a mistake. Humanity is stronger than you know." The Zinthar paused, its compound eyes gleaming. "We shall see, human. We shall see." Over the next few days, Sarah and her crew were subjected to brutal interrogations. The Zinthar wanted to know everything about Earth's defenses, its technology, its weaknesses. But the humans resisted, their training and determination holding firm against the aliens' cruel methods. During a brief respite between sessions, Sarah managed to gather her senior officers. "We need to find a way out of here," she whispered. "Earth has no idea what's coming." Raj, his face bruised but his spirit unbroken, nodded. "I've been studying their tech when they bring us in for questioning. I think I might be able to hack into their systems if I can get to a terminal." Emma, the tactical officer, chimed in. "If we can get to their hangar, I bet I could fly one of their ships. They can't be that different from ours." Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. It was a long shot, but it was all they had. "All right, here's the plan." Their opportunity came during the next interrogation session. As the guards were distracted, Raj made his move, his fingers flying over the alien console. Alarms blared, and suddenly the energy barriers of their cell flickered and died. "Now," Sarah shouted, leading the charge out of the detention area. The escape was chaotic. Human crew members fought with desperate courage against the surprise Zinfar guards. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but their determination and the element of surprise gave them an edge. Sarah and her team battled their way to the hangar, leaving a trail of stunned and incapacitated aliens in their wake. Emma leaped into the cockpit of a Zinfar scout ship, her hands dancing over the controls. "I can fly this thing," she called out triumphantly as the engines hummed to life. As they lifted off, evading the frantic attempts to stop them, Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief, but she knew this was only the beginning. The stolen Zinfar ship streaked through space, carrying its human cargo and a dire warning. Sarah stood at the makeshift command center they'd set up, her face grim as she addressed her crew. "We've struck the first blow," she said, "but the real fight is just beginning. The Zinfar will be coming for Earth, and we need to be ready." As they approached the solar system, Sarah couldn't shake a feeling of dread. They had escaped, against all odds, but at what cost? The Zinfar now knew of Earth's existence and its location. Humanity's age of innocence was over. The stolen ship's sensors picked up Earth's defense fleet long before they were in visual range. Sarah opened a channel, her heart pounding. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the UES Horizon. Authentication code Alpha 7 Delta 9er. Earth Control, please respond." There was a tense moment of silence before a familiar voice crackled through the speakers. "Commander Chen, my God, we thought you were lost. What are you flying?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Earth Control, we have a Code Black situation. I repeat, Code Black. Prepare for imminent alien invasion." As they approached Earth, Sarah could see the planet's defense grid coming to life. Satellites reoriented, weapon platforms powered up, and ships moved into defensive formations. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. The debriefing was intense. Military leaders, politicians, and scientists grilled Sarah and her crew for hours, trying to understand the threat they faced. The news spread quickly, and soon the whole world knew. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and its first neighbors were not friendly. In the days that followed, Earth became a hive of activity. Factories were retooled for wartime production, militaries mobilized, and a global defense initiative was hastily cobbled together. But would it be enough? Sarah found herself at the center of it all, her experience with the Zinfar making her an invaluable asset. As she stood in the war room of the newly formed Earth Defense Force, surrounded by holographic displays of Earth's meager defenses, she couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Commander Chen, General Williams, the grizzled head of the EDF, addressed her. "You've seen these bastards up close. What are our chances?" Sarah met his gaze steadily. "Sir, the Zinfar have technology far beyond ours. Their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful. In a straight fight, we don't stand a chance." A murmur of dismay ran through the assembled officers, but Sarah wasn't finished. "But," she continued, her voice growing stronger, "we have something they don't. Something they can't understand or replicate. We have the human spirit, our creativity, our adaptability, our sheer stubborn refusal to give up. The Zinfar think they're superior, and that's their weakness. We'll use it against them." General Williams nodded slowly. "Well said, Commander. Now let's figure out how to turn that spirit into a fighting chance." As the meeting continued, plans were made, strategies devised. But Sarah knew that no plan survived first contact with the enemy. The real test was yet to come. Outside, the skies of Earth were filled with the contrails of ships and missiles as humanity prepared for war. In homes and bunkers, on ships and stations, people waited with bated breath for the coming storm. Sarah Chen stood at the window, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Zinfar were coming. But this time, Earth would be ready. This time, they would show the aliens that they had made a grave mistake. They had provoked the wrong species. The invasion begins. The first signs of the Zinthar invasion came not with a bang, but with an eerie silence. Across the globe, communication systems suddenly went dark. Satellites blinked out one by one, leaving humanity blind and isolated. In the Earth Defense Force headquarters, alarms blared as screens flickered to static. Commander Sarah Chen rushed to the command center, her heart pounding. This was it, the moment they had been dreading and preparing for. Status report. She barked as she entered the room. General Williams looked up from a holographic display, his face grim. It started, Commander. The Zinthar have taken out our satellite network. We're effectively blind. Sarah nodded, her mind racing. Just as we expected. Activate the backup systems. Get me a visual on our orbital defenses. As the staff scrambled to comply, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The Zinthar were playing smart, crippling Earth's ability to coordinate a global response. But humanity had anticipated this move and prepared accordingly. Slowly, grainy images began to appear on the main screen. The orbital defense platforms, hastily constructed in the weeks since Sarah's return, hung silently in space. For a moment, all was quiet. Then, in a flash of blinding light, the sky erupted. Zinthar warships, vast and alien, materialized above Earth. Their organic-looking hulls bristled with weapons, energy building along their flanks as they prepared to fire. All defense platforms, open fire, Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her gut. The orbital platforms came to life, unleashing a barrage of missiles and energy weapons. The Zinthar ships shrugged off the initial assault, their shields flickering but holding. Keep firing, Sarah commanded. We need to buy time for our ground defenses to mobilize. As the battle raged in orbit, chaos unfolded on the surface. In cities around the world, people poured into the streets, staring up at the sky in horror and disbelief. Emergency sirens wailed, urging civilians to seek shelter. In New York, Tokyo, London, and countless other metropolises, the first wave of Zinthar dropships descended. They were met with a hail of anti-aircraft fire, but many made it through, disgorging swarms of insectoid warriors onto the streets. Sarah watched the feeds in growing dismay. The Zinthar were everywhere, their advanced weaponry cutting through human defenses like paper. But then, something unexpected happened. In the streets of Paris, a group of civilians, armed with nothing more than improvised weapons, managed to overwhelm the Zinthar patrol. In Rio de Janeiro, local police coordinated with military units to set up ambushes, using their knowledge of the city's layout to their advantage. General, are you seeing this? Sarah asked, a note of hope in her voice. Williams nodded, a grim smile on his face. Looks like your assessment was right, Commander. Our people aren't going down without a fight. As reports flooded in from around the globe, a pattern emerged. While the Zinthar's technology gave them a significant advantage, they were struggling to adapt to the unpredictable and diverse nature of human resistance. In rural areas, farmers used their intimate knowledge of the land to lead Zinthar forces into natural traps. In urban centers, guerrilla tactics slowed the alien advance. Every step the invaders took was met with fierce, if often futile, resistance. But the price was high. Major cities lay in ruins, their skylines transformed by alien weaponry and crashed ships. The death toll climbed by the minute, and for every small victory, there were a dozen crushing defeats. Sarah felt the weight of each loss, each life snuffed out in humanity's desperate struggle. But she couldn't afford to dwell on it. Not now, when the fate of her species hung in the balance. We need to coordinate our efforts better, she said, turning to her team. The Zinthar may have taken out our satellites, but we still have the internet. Let's use it. Over the next few hours, a plan took shape. Using encrypted channels and decentralized networks, the EDF began to coordinate the global resistance. Information on Zinthar weaknesses, effective tactics, and rally points spread rapidly. As night fell over the embattled planet, Sarah found a moment of quiet to reflect. The situation was dire, but not hopeless. Humanity was bloodied, but unbowed. Her thoughts were interrupted by a commotion outside her office. Raj burst in, his eyes wide with excitement. "Commander, you need to see this," he exclaimed, pulling up a video on the main screen. The footage showed a Zinfar dropship, smoking and damaged, crash landing in a field. As the alien troops stumbled out, they were met not by military forces, but by a group of ordinary civilians, farmers, mechanics, school teachers, armed with hunting rifles and improvised weapons. To Sarah's amazement, the humans managed to subdue the aliens, capturing several and destroying others. It wasn't a major victory in the grand scheme of things, but it was a powerful symbol. "Send this out on all channels," Sarah ordered, a fire burning in her eyes. "The world needs to see this. We can fight back. We can win." As the video spread, a change came over the global resistance. Hope, that most human of emotions, began to take root. In bunkers and basements, in the ruins of cities and the depths of forests, people watched and took heart. The Zinfar had come expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they found themselves embroiled in a brutal planet-wide guerrilla war against an enemy that refused to submit, that treated every setback as a challenge to overcome. Days turned into weeks, and still Earth held out. The Zinfar controlled much of the planet's surface, but their hold was tenuous, constantly challenged by a populace that grew more adept at resistance with each passing day. In the EDF headquarters, Sarah and her team worked tirelessly, coordinating the global fight and searching for a way to turn the tide. They had scored small victories, even managed to capture some Zinfar technology, but the aliens still held the upper hand. Then, late one night, as Sarah pored over reports of the latest battles, Raj burst into her office, his face flushed with excitement. "Commander," he gasped, out of breath, "I think I've found something. A weakness in the Zinfar communication system, if we can exploit it." Sarah leaned forward, hope kindling in her chest. "Show me," she said. As Raj explained his discovery, Sarah felt a surge of determination. This could be the break they needed, the key to turning the tide of the war. The invasion had begun with humanity on the back foot, reeling from the alien onslaught. But now, against all odds, they had a chance to strike back. The Zinfar were about to learn that they had indeed provoked the wrong species. With renewed purpose, Sarah turned to the task of planning humanity's counterattack. The real battle was just beginning. Turning the tide. Commander Sarah Chen stood before a hastily assembled group of Earth's brightest minds, scientists, engineers, and hackers from around the globe. The bunker hummed with nervous energy as she prepared to brief them on Raj's discovery. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sarah began, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's hopes, "we've identified a potential weakness in the Zinfar communication network. If we can exploit it, we might just have a chance to turn this war around." Raj stepped forward, pulling up a holographic display of complex alien data structures. "The Zinfar use a quantum entanglement-based communication system," he explained. "It's incredibly fast and virtually unhackable, or so they thought." A murmur ran through the assembled crowd as Raj continued. "But we've discovered a flaw. Their system relies on a specific quantum frequency that, when disrupted, causes a cascading failure across their entire network." Dr. Amelia Rodriguez, a renowned quantum physicist, leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we could potentially blind their entire fleet?" Sarah nodded grimly. "That's exactly what we're hoping for. But to pull this off, we need to build a device capable of generating a precise quantum interference pattern on a massive scale." The room erupted in discussion, ideas flying back and forth. It was a monumental task, requiring technology beyond anything humanity had yet achieved. But the alternative was extinction. As the scientists and engineers broke into teams to tackle various aspects of the problem, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. This was humanity at its best, creative, collaborative, and utterly determined. Weeks passed in a blur of frantic activity, while the resistance continued to fight the Zinfar on the ground. The best minds on Earth worked tirelessly to bring the quantum disruptor to life. There were setbacks and failures, moments of despair when the task seemed impossible. But each time, someone would find a workaround, a new approach, a flash of insight that kept the project moving forward. Finally, after countless sleepless nights and bitter sacrifices, they had a prototype. The quantum disruptor was a massive device, filling an entire warehouse with delicate equipment and experimental technology. As Sarah stood before the assembled team, she felt the weight of the moment. "You've all done the impossible," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Now comes the hard part. We need to get this device close enough to the Zinfar command ship to activate it." The plan they devised was audacious, bordering on insane. They would use the captured Zinfar scout ship, the very one Sarah and her crew had escaped in, to smuggle the disruptor into the heart of the alien fleet. A team of volunteers was assembled. Sarah herself would lead the mission, along with Raj, Dr. Rodriguez, and a handful of others with the necessary skills to operate and activate the device. As they prepared for launch, Sarah addressed the gathered crowd one last time. "I won't lie to you," she said, her voice carrying across the hushed assembly. "This mission is incredibly dangerous. There's a good chance we won't come back. But if we succeed, we give humanity a fighting chance." She paused, looking out at the sea of faces, tired, scared, but filled with determination. "No matter what happens, remember this. We are the human race. We've faced extinction before, and we've always found a way to survive. Today, we fight not just for our lives, but for our right to exist in this universe." A cheer went up from the crowd, a defiant roar in the face of overwhelming odds. As Sarah boarded the scout ship, she carried with her the hopes and dreams of an entire species. The journey to the Zinfar fleet was tense. Using the stolen ship's identification codes, they managed to slip past the outer defenses. But as they approached the massive command ship, alarms began to blare. "They've detected the disruptor," Raj shouted from his console. "Our cover's blown." Sarah gritted her teeth. "Full speed ahead. We need to get closer." The scout ship darted and weaved through a hail of enemy fire. On all sides, massive Zinfar warships loomed, their weapons charging for a killing blow. "We're in range," Dr. Rodriguez called out. "Activating the disruptor now." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a wave rippling outward, a strange distortion spread through space. Zinfar ships began to falter, their lights flickering and weapons powering down. "It's working," Raj exclaimed. "Their entire network is crashing." But their victory was short-lived. As the command ship before them began to drift, a massive energy buildup was detected. "They're overloading their core," Sarah realized with horror. They'd rather destroy themselves than be defeated. The explosion, when it came, was beyond anything they had ever seen. The scout ship was caught in the blast, systems failing as it tumbled through space. Sarah's last conscious thought was of Earth and the hope that they had done enough. She awoke to the beeping of medical equipment. As her vision cleared, she saw the familiar surroundings of an Earth hospital room. Beside her bed, General Williams stood, a rare smile on his face. "Welcome back, Commander," he said. "You did it. The Zinfar fleet is in chaos. We're pushing them back on all fronts." Sarah tried to sit up, wincing at the pain. "The others? My team. All survived, thanks to your piloting skills. You got the ship clear enough to be picked up by our rescue teams." As the general filled her in on the events of the past few days, Sarah felt a mix of relief and determination. They had won a significant victory, but the war was far from over. The Zinfar were retreating, but they were far from defeated. Earth had bought itself time and hope, but the real challenge lay ahead, taking the fight to the enemy and ensuring the safety of humanity among the stars. As she looked out the window at the sky, no longer filled with alien ships, but still bearing the scars of invasion, Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had proven its worth, its right to exist in a universe filled with threats. They had turned the tide. Now, it was time to surge forward and claim their place among the stars. Counterattack. The war room of the Earth Defense Force buzzed with activity. Holographic displays showed the retreating Zinfar forces scattering across the solar system in disarray. Commander Sarah Chen, still bearing the scars of her near-fatal mission, stood at the center of it all, her eyes fixed on the strategic overview. "We've pushed them out of Earth's orbit," she said, addressing the assembled military and political leaders. "But they're regrouping near Mars. We can't give them time to recover." General Williams nodded grimly. "Agreed. But how do we press our advantage? Our fleet is still outgunned and outnumbered." A smile played at the corners of Sarah's lips. "We use their own strengths against them. Raj, if you would." Raj stepped forward, activating a new holographic display. "Using the data we gathered from the Quantum Disruptor mission, we've managed to reverse engineer some of the Zinfar's key technologies. Behold the first of Earth's new defense fleet." The hologram showed a sleek, deadly-looking ship. It bore little resemblance to traditional human designs, instead incorporating the organic curves and advanced weaponry of Zinfar technology. "The EFS Defiant," Sarah announced. "A hybrid of human ingenuity and Zinfar tech. We've already begun production on a full fleet." Murmurs of approval and excitement rippled through the room. For the first time since the invasion began, it felt like humanity had a real chance not just to survive, but to win. "There's more," Raj continued. "We've also cracked their FTL drive technology. We can now match their speed and range." Sarah's expression hardened. "Which means we can take the fight to them. Not just push them out of our solar system, but pursue them back to their own territory." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This was no longer just about defense. It was about taking the offensive in an interstellar war. "I know what you're all thinking," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the tension. "That this is a step too far. That we should focus on rebuilding, on securing our own system. But the Zinfar won't stop. They'll regroup, reinforce, and return. Our only chance for lasting peace is to strike now, while they're vulnerable." Over the next few weeks, Earth's first interstellar war fleet took shape. The Defiant was joined by dozens of sister ships, each crewed by veterans of the Earth defense and eager new recruits. Sarah, as the architect of humanity's resurgence, was given command of the fleet. As the day of launch approached, a sense of nervous anticipation gripped the planet. This was humanity's first step onto the galactic stage, not as victims or refugees, but as a force to be reckoned with. Standing on the bridge of the Defiant, Sarah addressed her crew, and through them, all of humanity. "Today, we embark on a journey unlike any in human history. We go not just to defend our home, but to secure our future among the stars. The road ahead will be difficult, dangerous, and uncertain. But we go forward not out of hatred or vengeance, but with the determination to forge a lasting peace." With a command from Sarah, the fleet engaged their FTL drives. In a flash of light, they were gone, leaving Earth behind and venturing into the unknown. The journey to Zinfar space was tense. Using stolen star charts and intercepted communications, the fleet navigated through unfamiliar systems, always on alert for enemy patrols or hidden defenses. Their first major engagement came at the edge of Zinfar territory. A patrol fleet, caught off guard by the human ship's familiar yet alien design, was quickly overwhelmed. Sarah used the opportunity to gather intelligence, downloading the Zinfar ship's data cores before destroying them. "We've got their latest fleet positions," Raj reported, poring over the stolen data. "It looks like they're consolidating their forces around their homeworld." "They're scared." Sarah nodded grimly. "Good. Fear makes them predictable. Set course for the Zinfar homeworld. It's time to end this." As they approached the heart of Zinfar space, resistance grew fiercer. The aliens fought with the desperation of a species facing extinction. just as humanity had done months before. But the tables had turned. Now it was the humans who had the technological edge, their hybrid ships dancing through Zinfar formations with deadly grace. The final battle for the Zinfar homeworld was apocalyptic in scale. The sky above the alien planet burned with the exchange of energy weapons and nuclear fire. On the surface, drop pods delivered teams of human soldiers, their powered armor a match for the Zinfar's natural kitten. Sarah coordinated the assault from the Defiant, her mind racing as she directed ships and ground forces alike. The Zinfar fought fiercely, but they were outmatched by human adaptability and the fruits of reverse-engineered technology. As the battle reached its crescendo, a transmission cut through the chaos. On the main view screen, the face of the Zinfar Hive Queen appeared, her compound eyes reflecting the devastation around her. "Enough," the Queen's translator conveyed. "We surrender. The fight is over." A hush fell over the bridge of the Defiant. Sarah stepped forward, her face stern but not unsympathetic. "You invaded our world," she said, "killed millions of our people. Why should we accept your surrender now?" The Queen's mandibles clicked in what might have been resignation. "Because you have proven yourselves the stronger species. We underestimated you, to our great cost. If our positions were reversed, we would show no mercy. But you humans are different, are you not?" Sarah felt the weight of the moment, the fate of two species hanging in the balance. With a deep breath, she made her decision. "We accept your surrender on the condition of unconditional withdrawal from Earth space and reparations for the damage caused." As the terms of surrender were negotiated, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them here. From a species on the brink of extinction to a power capable of defeating one of the galaxy's most feared empires. The war was over, but humanity's journey was just beginning. They had proven themselves on the galactic stage, earned their place among the stars. Now came the hard part, building a lasting peace and forging a new path forward. As the Defiant began its long journey home, Sarah looked out at the alien stars and felt a mix of pride, hope, and trepidation. They had won the war. Now they had to win the peace. A new galactic order. 5 years had passed since the end of the Zinfar War. Earth, once an isolated blue marble in the vastness of space, had become the center of a rapidly expanding sphere of human influence. Commander Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood at the observation deck of Harmony Station, a massive space habitat orbiting Jupiter. The station was a testament to humanity's newfound status in the galaxy. Its corridors bustled with activity, not just humans, but representatives from a dozen alien species. Some were former allies who had joined Earth in the later stages of the war. Others were curious observers drawn by tales of the species that had defeated the dreaded Zinfar. Sarah's reflection in the transparent aluminum window looked older, lines of experience etched on her face. But her eyes still held the same determination that had seen humanity through its darkest hour. "Admiral," a voice called from behind her. "The Galactic Council is ready to begin the session." Sarah nodded to her aide. "Thank you, Lieutenant. I'll be right there." As she made her way to the council chambers, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. The Galactic Council, a fledgling alliance of spacefaring species, had been Earth's initiative, a way to ensure peace and cooperation in a universe they now knew was filled with both wonders and dangers. The council chamber was a grand circular room. Representatives from various species sat in tiered seats, their forms as diverse as the worlds they hailed from. At the center stood a holographic projection of the known galaxy, pinpoints of light representing member worlds and areas of interest. As Sarah took her place at the human delegation's seat, the Arcturian speaker called the session to order. Its melodious voice reverberated through the chamber. "Esteemed representatives, we gather today to address a matter of grave concern. Our long-range scouts have detected signs of a new threat emerging from the galactic core, a species as aggressive and expansionist as the Zinfar once were." Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly. Sarah leaned forward, her mind already racing with potential strategies. The speaker continued, "We turn now to our human allies, whose experience and innovative tactics were instrumental in defeating the Xinthar. Admiral Chen, what counsel do you offer in this time of need?" All eyes turned to Sarah as she stood. For a moment, she was transported back to that desperate day when the Xinthar first appeared in Earth's skies. But now, humanity was not alone. They were not unprepared. "Fellow members of the Council," Sarah began, her voice steady and confident, "the threat we face is serious, but not insurmountable. Humanity has learned much since we took our first steps into the galactic community. We've learned the value of preparation, of unity in the face of danger. But most importantly, we've learned that diversity, of thought, of biology, of culture, is our greatest strength." She gestured to the assembled aliens. "Each of our species brings unique perspectives and abilities to this alliance. Together, we are far stronger than any of us could be alone." Sarah activated a control on her panel, and the galactic hologram zoomed in on a section of space. "I propose a joint task force, combining the best ships and minds from all our worlds. We'll establish a defensive perimeter here, while sending diplomatic envoys to make first contact with this new species." The chamber buzzed with discussion. The Volcran ambassador, a being of living crystal, chimed in. "And if diplomacy fails, if this species proves as hostile as the Xinthar?" Sarah's expression hardened. "Then we fight, not as separate worlds, but as a united front. We've all seen the cost of division in the face of an overwhelming threat. This time, we stand together." The debate raged for hours, but in the end, the council approved Sarah's plan. As the session adjourned, representatives from various species approached her, offering support and resources for the task force. Later, as Sarah stood once again at the observation deck, she reflected on the long, strange journey that had brought humanity to this point, from a species on the brink of extinction to a linchpin of galactic civilization. Raj joined her, now sporting the uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. "Quite a day," he remarked. "Who would have thought, back when we were prisoners on that Xinthar ship, that we'd end up here?" Sarah smiled. "We've come a long way, but the journey's far from over." "Do you think we're ready?" Raj asked, gesturing at the stars beyond the window. "For whatever's coming from the core." Sarah was quiet for a moment, considering. "I think we're as ready as we can be. We're not the same people we were when the Xinthar came. We're stronger, wiser, and we're not alone." As if to emphasize her point, a massive ship glided into view. A Xinthar dreadnought, now part of the Joint Defense Fleet. Former enemies turned allies, a symbol of how much had changed. "Whatever comes," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination, "we'll face it together. That's the lesson we learned, the strength we found. Not just as humans, but as a united galaxy." As the station rotated, bringing Earth into view, a blue jewel against the blackness of space, Sarah felt a surge of pride and hope. Humanity had not only survived its trial by fire, but had emerged as a force for unity and progress in the galaxy. The Xinthar had indeed provoked the wrong species, but in doing so, they had inadvertently set in motion events that would reshape the galaxy for millennia to come. Humanity, once isolated and vulnerable, now stood at the forefront of a new era of galactic cooperation and exploration. As Sarah gazed at her home planet, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them not with fear, but with the same indomitable spirit that had seen them through their darkest hour. The stars, once so distant and unreachable, now beckoned with the promise of new discoveries, new allies, and new frontiers to explore. The story of humanity among the stars was just beginning, and Sarah Chen, along with countless others, would be there to write its next chapters.